Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today, we are very excited to have author T.T. Madden on to talk about Gorman's House, which is the newest entry in the Totally Freak series from Mad Axe Media, coming out September 9th, as well as just a whole host of other things, some nostalgia, history of horror, and all kinds of other fun stuff. So, welcome, TT, to the show.
Thank you. I'm very pumped to be here.
So glad to have you.
So, first off, Gorman's House is, part of this series that is set normally in the like 90s, late 90s, 2000, early 2000s kind of thing. Is that like your coming of age time too, and sort of just your background in horror in general? Whether or not that's like been your thing or if it's a newer thing for you.
Yeah, so I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, and a lot of the early 2000s stuff I didn't necessarily mesh with, so I was sponging up a lot of like 80s and 90s horror. I've always been like chasing horror ever since. I remember when I was really little, my mom had a bunch of Stephen King books on the top shelf, and she told me that I couldn't read those because they were too scary. So every time I turned around, I would try to climb the bookshelf to try to get to them.
Wow, like literally trying to get to that's so
Like,
funny.
I had no plan how I was going to hide any of these books or what I was going to do with them after I got them, but I just knew that I needed them.
Did you get to them eventually? Or was it always like a
I didn't get to those specifically, but
okay?
after a while my mom was like, okay, I think it's time to let you like check a scary book out of the library or
Love
like
it.
rent something scary from Blockbuster as long as you don't show it to your little brother.
Do you remember what some of those early, ones that you might have seen or read would have been? Like what was like really formative for you?
I remember the first movie at my mom's house that I was really allowed to watch was Jaws.
No.
And I remember specifically because we had a TV that had a built-in VHS, and she
Yeah.
took that upstairs and put it in a different room and tilted the screen so that my brother couldn't see it if he accidentally
That's
walked
hilarious.
by. So I was like, oh my God, this is great. But whenever we went to my dad's house, we would usually go to Blockbuster, and the rule was we could pick a family movie for everybody to watch, and then after my brother went to sleep, I could pick a scary movie and watch that
That's amazing.
one.
It's funny because I think like, even with Jaws, it's like the sound without even seeing what's on screen might be scarier than actually funny. It's like he can't see it, but it's like no, the sound's probably pretty terrifying too. But I love that. It's like, okay, the family friendly, and then it gets serious once brother goes to bed.
Yeah, a lot of the ones that I remember really vividly of those trying to watch them on lower volume were like Jason X, Anaconda, Candyman, stuff like that.
Yeah, Candyman was a hugely formative movie. I remember like my friend and we went to Blockbuster, and it was like $2 a movie. We had got all our allowance, and I think we rented like 6 movies, and we just stayed up all night. And when we got
Ooh.
to Candyman, it was like 2 in the morning, and we got to the the parking garage scene, and we were like, "Oh, we fucked up."
Yeah.
we were
I feel like you planned that wrong.
we were so scared at that point. It was like,
Yeah,
we couldn't even pretend to be like, we were 6th or 7th grade trying to pretend like we weren't, and like we're looking at each other like, nope, that voice, I'm done.
yeah. Candyman was always one of the ones like with the iconic cover. Like I
Yes,
remember walking past that cover of the
eyeball.
demon eye every single time and being like, "Oh, I shouldn't be allowed to watch this, but I'm gonna."
Yeah. And that's one that I just watched it, I think, over the summer, and it holds up so well still.
You
Yeah,
did.
It's still just that good. Like, and I think it, as an adult, all the themes, race and poverty and class, that like, you really don't, it doesn't really sink in as much when you're 11 or 12. I'm like, this movie's brilliant.
Yeah.
And the remake too, or whatever it's considered, just as much. Like that's one of the few that I'm like, yeah, they knew what they were doing here too. So
Hmm.
So, was there any particular Stephen King book that you saw up there that if you could have reached it, you would have wanted to go for first?
The one that I remember the most was It,
yeah,
because it was the biggest, obviously, and it had like that really stark red on white on the spine.
yeah,
And I think too, there was something about at the time, all I knew was that it was a scary book. I don't even think I knew that it like had a clown,
hmm
but I remember just that title. I was like, I don't know enough about this book and I need to know more.
yeah. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I think such a giant book, such a short title. It's so evocative. Yeah, it definitely
It's very
pulls
striking
you
with
in.
the color. Yeah.
Definitely. So I'd really like to, seg you into Gorman's house here. There's, it's a very fun book. It's scary, but I feel like there's so much in here that is so interesting to unpack, and hopefully you're willing to do that with us a little bit without spoilers being involved, obviously. Um, so I've heard, I love haunted attractions and I love finding the scariest one. And I think that, there's different documentaries and like found footage films where it is like this idea that like there's this haunted attraction that you have to sort of either be invited to or find. And it's so scary that they can't even like tell people about it. And I just love that idea. And like, you do some even cooler things, I think, with that. We'll talk about that in a second. But where did that original idea come from as this like urban legend haunted house?
Yeah, so there's an act. It's very bare bones, but there's a real urban legend called the 13th Floor
Mm-hmm.
House.
Hmm.
And it's the same idea of you go through each floor and you're supposed to make it through 13 and then you win, but nobody has ever won. And that's kind of like the entire legend.
Yeah. And it's
But
funny, I'd
then,
heard that like when I was in high school, this would have been late 90s, I didn't even realize it was an urban legend. I thought it was a real thing.
yeah. And there are other, like there was a guy who built a crazy attraction that was like based on it, and then another really big inspiration was Channel Zero No End House.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really like the whole like concept of urban legends and like setting that in the 90s where it was like you couldn't really fact check that unless you
Yeah.
went to the library for like 5 hours or you were one of the rich people who had dial up. So I thought that was a really cool.
And even then, it would take what, like an hour and a half to pull up
Yeah.
one page to try to.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool to put that something like that in a time where word of mouth was even more powerful.
Yeah. Very cool. And I love this like sort of like, especially in this opening where there's this figure that's just kind of leaving breadcrumbs throughout this town of, eventually it's how people are finding this haunted attraction. But I love that idea that it feels like this attraction is sort of timeless and has always existed and always will, almost, in a way, but that it's using the things of that time period to attract people to it is super creepy and like a really cool idea.
Thank you. I don't know if either of you had read this yet, but there is a free short story prequel on my Patreon that you can just go and download the PDF.
Oh, I will now.
And it doesn't give away the game of what the book is, but it reaches backward in time and does some things that I was excited to do with the house in different time periods.
That's a cool way to like that you
Yeah.
don't have to like finish with it. So you could just keep enjoying playing around with that concept a little more.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think I saw a tease that said, "I hope you guys like it because there's more coming in this world." And I like it, and I hope
We
there's a
like
lot more
it.
coming.
Well, I am working on it's a spiritual successor, so it's
Mhm.
not totally,
Okay.
but it takes a lot of the same like themes and ideas and explores them in a way that is a little more adult.
Yeah, that's cool. So, as to how these characters find the house, I just have to say, were you an N6?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had a Super Nintendo and I loved that, but N64 was like really the big thing where I was like, "Oh my God, video games are wild."
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone, that moment you play Mario 64 the first time and you're
Ugh.
like, wait, you can go anywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like really that for me, that first game that did that.
Why did that make me feel like in a strange way though? Like I was always so used to like playing within the like borders of things.
Uh,
I know that was like a feature, but I think it was like uncomfortable to me. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
and I think people had that problem when they first played it, which is interesting that it was like, because it wasn't linear in that way. That's very cool. But
It's that
what,
same feeling when they're like, write about anything you want. It's like, how do I know what I want to write about? Like for
but
an essay.
when you say anything, do you mean like
Yeah.
what I did this week?
Yeah.
Like,
Like it's just like, yeah, no, it just a little bit of, okay. But anyway, you were an N64 kid.
yeah. So, the concept that to play this video game helps you find or gives you the address, like, where did that come from? Or, like, incorporating that was really cool. Like, were you just kind of thinking, what would be a really cool game that I wish I could have played? Like, when it comes to, like, the actual game that's in the book? Or, where did that kind of come from?
Yeah, so there was always the idea of like needing something to get to the house, and I wanted it to be a little bit more than just an invitation,
Mm-hmm.
primarily because there's already an invitation to an alternate dimension in one of my earlier books, and I didn't want to repeat myself, but also making it something that early challenge for like the characters to overcome.
Yeah.
And I'm also a really big fan of survival horror games, so I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get at least a little bit of that like early 90s survival
Yes.
horror kind of taste into
That
the.
game gave me really, I don't know if did you play on, it was on the original PlayStation, that game Clock Tower.
Yes.
That gave me such feels of that, and that was one of the, Resident Evil obviously, like, so huge, but Clock Tower was, I think, the first game I played where the goal wasn't to kill things, it was to
Oh,
hide, it was to find, figure out
Mhm.
clues and get out, and like when the killer came, you had to find a spot to hide, it wasn't about
oh.
fighting back, and I love that.
So this was like the first like escape room sort of
I mean, I
video
guess, yeah,
game.
that kind of thing. I just remember the guy had a giant pair of scissors, came after you, and you could hear it coming, him snapping, and
Oh,
that's how you knew to start hiding. And like, I got all those
yeah.
feels from this game.
I
Yeah.
have right next to my computer, I bought the collector's edition of the remake of the original Clock Tower, and I
Oh,
have the original Clock Tower like right next to my computer on my desk.
that's awesome. So yes, that was an inspiration.
Good call,
Yeah.
Adam.
No, we same friend that we watched Candyman, like we would play that and just turn all the lights off and turn the volume way up and just scare the shit out of ourselves.
Damn.
So that, yeah,
That's
I love that.
intense.
Yeah. And then, the mall obviously 80s and 90s is ubiquitous, and I think the way
Oh,
that you played with it by turning it into like this sort of weird liminal space where it made no sense for this house to be in the middle, like the imagery of that was just awesome, like where, like what, when you were deciding where to place this, like how did that come about?
Well, I always like the idea of dead malls. I think that is extremely creepy, and I wanted to do something that was out in the real world that was already weird
Yeah.
to signal to the characters and to the reader that like the haunted dimension isn't necessarily limited to the inside of the house.
Right.
yeah. I feel like we were in what mall was it that we were in? And it was like there was bathrooms down there, and I was like, I'm not going down here. It was so weird.
Yeah. And it used like I don't know why that was like a design feature of bathrooms to be like down multiple
I mean, they have that even
creepy
in still in like
hallways.
King of Prussia. You have to go down like a big ramp to go, but like this one was like you opened it and it was like you're likely to get murdered. It was so long
Yeah.
and uncomfortable. I
Yeah,
just
it really
so
feels
yeah.
like
I mean, dead malls, creepy malls.
Yeah.
it feels
And
like you're
then
going into the back rooms just to pee.
absolutely just, and then always those things where like spatially it's not adding up correctly. Like it just adds that layer of like, sets it up that if geography doesn't work right, you really have no idea what can and can't happen. So
Yeah.
I love that where it's like, there's supposed to be a TCBY here and there's another hallway. What's going on?
Yeah, God.
But I really want to get into so these three main characters that you have in this book. I think, we talked off air a little bit about it. I think that there is the sort of I don't know if it's the draw or like the idea that a lot of people when they write things that take place in the 90s or early 2000s or they go for that nostalgia, they're looking at really like through rose colored glasses at the time period. And I love that you have Danny here who is a black kid in a town that is very very white, and you have Kennedy who is beginning to realize she's queer and like what that means in a place that again might not be very accepting of that. And I think that that often is not explored very much in books that take place in this time period because I grew up in Washington DC, and I feel like the media was amazing, like the books and the movies and the stuff that we got. But to me when I think of the 90s, I think of the war on drugs, I think of the crime bill, I think of the fact that after school if I went into the convenience store they only allowed two black kids in at the same time, but I could go in anytime I wanted,
Mm,
as a white kid. And like those
mm.
were just like, and that was in Washington D.C. We're not talking about like a small town. So, was that important to you? Like when you knew you were writing this, having that cast of characters and kind of having those different perspectives within that. How did that come about? Like, how important is that to you? And just sort of your perspective on bringing those issues into this book.
Yeah, so on the in the back in the bios for all of my books, there's a line that I refuse to keep quotey fingers politics out of my writing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's, you're spending all this time writing a book. And for me, it has to be more, there has to be something there to say more than just, oh, this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there
Yeah.
can be plenty of fun there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of this, having like, especially the black and queer characters in the 90s, yeah, I do feel like that isn't explored in a lot of like his media
Mm-hmm.
or throwback 90s media, I'll say.
Right. Right.
Then if you go back and watch actual 90s media, it's like this is just the stuff that they were putting on TV and in the movies, like
Mm-hmm.
how insanely transphobic Ace
Oh
Ventura
yeah.
is.
Oh, I think I do think about that for, and even Billy Madison, right?
Yeah, and it's like,
My
there
joy.
were like the LA riots in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and people really, like you said, have this like rose colored glasses look where it seems like, okay, after Dr. King, racism just sort of disappeared from America, and that is hilariously untrue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Danny's kind of experiencing a community that is saying racism does not exist there, while in reality, he's being othered all the time.
Right.
He's like this exotic creature that is there for their sort of like athletic amusement. But when it comes down to like being one of them, he never feels that.
Hmm.
And I thought that was so interesting to explore. And then to take that further, and, essentially this house preys on and creates, essentially like your worst fears, right? Or like the thing that you're, really afraid of happening. Maybe there's that kernel of truth to it that it brings out. And the way that you play with that, I think, probably is going to speak to a lot of people that are in similar positions.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like when I was a kid, there were the big issue books and then there were fun books, and they
Hmm.
very rarely, if ever, crossed over.
Right.
You would read Goosebumps, and I might be wrong. I don't remember there ever being like a race lesson about like racism or homophobia in a Goosebumps book.
I
Right,
also,
right.
can't tell you. I could go back and I'm sure there may have been, but I can't tell you a cover with a non-white person on it,
Yeah.
or book that really
Mhm.
had any other sort of diversity to it. So, he's, I think that in the 90s it was, and even now sometimes it's just acceptable to be like, I'm not going to put diverse characters in here so I don't have to tackle that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which even like as you know, I love commercials, always have. And before I helped, people produce videos and commercials, but you notice like different networks, different, stylings, different audiences. It's like it's better, but it's fun
Hmm.
too. It's still so limited.
Right.
And, it's not really much of an improvement. It's like there's so few beauty skincare lines that
Hmm.
tailor to. I mean, it is absolutely better. It's just like as a white person, it didn't come across my mind as a kid to think about, hey, there's no one that looks like me. But now that we're interviewing some authors that have said that, I mean, I'm glad that books like this do exist now
Hmm.
because it deserves to be there. It should have always been.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I that's why I did the dedication in the beginning, and that's, what I was thinking about the whole time when I was writing this, what would, a 10-year-old me want to see it. And then it got a little more deranged than 10-year-old me, but
Yeah, well, maybe 10-year-old you did. No,
If you had gotten to that top shelf, maybe
that's
10
what
year
I'm
old you would
wondering. Yeah.
have.
yeah.
It's just I remember when Black
Black Panther.
Panther and all the little boys and girls that dressed up and went to the theater and just like it just sucks, I guess is what I'm saying. It's like I just in retrospect and in learning and trying to like change perspectives on things, it's like, man, like you're out here doing such good work because I mean it clearly makes such a difference and it's
Hmm.
sad that even has to like be said. And like I follow that one author, that Erin Crosby Eckstein, and she wrote Junie, and she's always just like, if you'd like to read somebody like other fall book that besides mine that would actually be from a person of color, here are some reads. And it's just like it's just even trying to like break through that algorithm
Yeah.
more, and what they say of like what gets focused. So is there anything that you kind of do with your, because I saw your one post, you were like, think 90s rap music, think, and so it's like, do you do anything special with your social media to try to like tap into other things, or like as you're just like representing yourself, like, to connect with audiences?
I feel like I'm so bad at social media. But yeah, I try to just like make it fun and really show, like, there's always like the constant joke about how like writers hate writing. And I
Yeah.
Mm,
never understood that because I love it so much. I have to like literally pull myself away from the keyboard in the morning to go to work.
wow.
So I feel like if I can just at least get a little bit more of that like fun personality out to
I
see,
see.
to show people that like I'm really having fun making this, and
Yeah.
hopefully they'll have as much fun reading it.
Yeah, and I think that comes through definitely, but also, yeah, obviously I'm asking some questions that are a little like, heavier, but I don't want to like make it seem in any way, and I definitely want to talk about a few things in here. This book is so much fun, like it doesn't lie about like the experiences that some of these characters would have had, but like at its heart, it's a fun house of horrors of like some of the scariest shit. And when I want to talk about this next character, Jason, he, for me personally, uh, he has the scariest moment in the book, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But first, Jason was a really interesting character to me because, like, and I joked about it, I think, commenting, when I did my review, that like he kind of sucks, but he doesn't know it, and he doesn't. I don't think at his heart he wants to suck, right? I think he does think he's doing his best. I think he thinks he's the hero of this book. And, I think back to Big Trouble in Little China, and he feels very much like the Kurt Russell character, that he thinks he's the hero when he's the sidekick the entire time, right? And like Jason gives me those feelings so much. Like, and I loved that this big jock quarterback, is in kind of having his hero moment, and he's not the hero.
Yeah, I really do love the idea of a false protagonist.
Yeah.
You know, Psycho being the obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you do something like that, it's immediately signal to the reader or the audience that, like, okay, all bets are off. Anything can
Right.
happen now. But with Jason, was is really like an amalgamation of a lot of the people that I knew in middle and high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm mixed race, and I had mostly white friends because I lived in a mostly white area.
Yeah.
And they would say and do stuff that was like the stuff that Jason said and did.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't from a like inherently racist perspective. It was just like, oh, they don't really know. Like the big question that I feel like everybody is familiar with is, can I touch your hair?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that, that kind of stuff. And that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of the thing that I wanted Jason to do, because I think having a, like, at one point, I think like a lot of people who write like kids on bikes ish, like,
Mm-hmm.
or I was debating having like a bully character, human antagonist, but I was like, it just feels too easy.
Yeah.
Somebody be like that kind of like overtly evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's more nuanced and real to have like your friend say something that is like really uncalled for and
Right.
like just not even realize that he said it.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And he plays that role for Kennedy as well, without him ever really realizing it for the vast majority of the book too.
Mhm.
But the scene, and I don't want to go into too much specifics, but as my wife knows very well here, late 90s J horror, the woman that moves in very like ways that shouldn't,
That's
and
your
like in
favorite.
the hallway, the scene with Jason, I was just like, this is written specifically to creep me out, and I loved it. Um, and I'm wondering, like, were you a fan of those movies? The Ring, Ju-on, The Grudge, that kind of stuff. Were you watching those too, and did they freak you out as well?
Yeah, I love J horror.
Yes.
There's a thing about like my favorite J horror movie of all time is Qui-Gon Pulse.
Yes. I
Well,
was gonna
maybe it's
say, is it the what is it? The room? Yeah, the eyes over the chair. Like that scene is to me the scariest scene in film history.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe it's actually Cure. They're probably neck and neck, but like with a
Yeah.
lot of American horror, especially, it's really, I find that it's really concerned with a lot of physicality. Like the
Mm-hmm.
threat to you is a monster or a guy
Right.
with a knife, something that's going to come after your body. And with J horror, it's about something that's like a lot of J horror. It's about something that's like going to come after your mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't get you with these like scenes of explicit gore. It's more about like dread. Like I'm thinking of the slow motion walking scene in Qui-Gon.
Yep.
Or like at the end of that. No, I said Qui-Gon. I'm mixing up two movies. I can't remember the Japanese name for Pulse. But anyway,
Pyro.
Cairo, yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Qui-Gon is a different movie.
Yeah, that's like the 50s anthology. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another scene at the end where like the ghost is in shadow and just like leans down at the camera and
Yeah.
like nothing happens. There's no jump
Yeah.
scare or anything. It just like talks, and that is
Hmm.
way more frightening.
To me, obviously the slow motion walk. Um, I think the scene in Pulse that I think of besides that one is when the one character just disappears into the wall and it's just left with like whispering "help me," and that's all you
Yes.
like quietly hear, and I'm like, where did they go? Like, the whatever the threat is, you don't even know what is happening. You just know they're gone and it's not good, and like the dread is just like, it's like apocalyptic without having to have an alien invasion and thing. It's so scary.
Yeah, and so much of it is also about an evil or some sort of status quo change that you literally cannot defeat.
Mm.
We at the end of the movie you can, like kill Freddy or Jason or you can escape Leatherface, but in like Ringu it's like, okay, this is here forever.
Yeah, because the only way to beat it is to make more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And then,
I wanted to ask what if whenever you, like if you don't have any
yeah,
more
go ahead.
questions about the book, I wanted to hear about your tearing yourself away from the computer in the morning. I'm always curious about like writing processes. And when we were out at Books and Brews, we asked a lot of people that and like where they start. And then I know like when we were talking to John Ward, he was like, man, if I just never had to go to work, like if I could just do this all day. It sounds like you're kind of doing the same thing, but like, what's your process? What time are you on like in the morning? Like, sounds like you don't really have to like push yourself to do the 2,000 words or whatever a day. It's just like you're like, I could do this all day.
Yeah, I usually get up at like 5 in the morning and I get coffee and sit down at my computer and just work on like whatever I'm working on for that day. And yeah, I never really understood people who didn't want to write. Like the only time that I really don't want to write something is if I have already plotted something out to like an excruciating detail,
Mm,
because then I'm kind of like, oh, I already sort of know what's going to happen, so I don't really like feel like doing this. Like I really like having the that same sort of sense of discovery of the story. Like it feels the same way as like when I'm reading a really good book. I'm like, I need to go to the next page. I need to see what happens.
Yeah. And I'm just curious too, like when you work with people and you're just getting done right, like do people ever like, are they asking like, what are you working on? Like, will they ask to read your stuff? Like curious as to what do you do for your day job?
I'm a librarian in my day job.
My God, you're living the life here, my dude. He's like, I gotta grab myself away from work. And it's like, wait a minute now.
I just switched branches. The people at my new branch are there's more people who are into horror and into like the scary sort of things that I write. At my last branch, it was very like stereotypical librarian. I
mm,
was the youngest person in there by like 20 years at least. So a lot of the older ladies were like, you write books? Where can I get them? And I would tell them if they asked me, but then I would say, it's horror. There's, a very grisly scene on page whatever. Just be aware there are content warnings in the beginning of the book.
don't look at me differently.
Well, now, if I'm right, you were at StokerCon, right?
Yes,
Yeah. And did you go to like Librarians Day
I
for
didn't
some
do
of the
that. I just went to a bunch of different panels and focused on handing out as many arcs to people as I could of my
Okay.
book that came out last month.
Well, I happen to actually make the librarians panel.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
one.
there's a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Mhm.
said, just one. And it was awesome, but I just keep going back to the fact that they're saying how important it is for librarians to promote horror. So, I mean, now when you're in your new place, like, do you have like more say over what you order or just like what you stock or like pointing people towards this passion?
I'm not really on like the ordering team, but the where I am now, the collection is much more diverse, and it's a lot easier. A lot more people are open to reading a horror book
Mm.
now. I used to work at a library in the South, and not to generalize an entire populace, but the specific area where I worked, it was very focused on our specific library was focused on really like little kids because we had a lot of like new families in the area, so I couldn't exactly be like, hey, why don't you check out the new Nat Cassidy alongside your Pete the Cat book.
More creepy pair of underwear, though. You could.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
have some
we have
cool
a
little.
horror book up display up right now, getting ready for spooky season.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome. I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody at StokerCon that was uh, had written like a little baby scary book, but it was like a spooky one where, and I meant to go back and buy it, but it was like a whirlwind of like trying to meet all these authors and just like doing everything. I was like, kind of like, well, how scary is it? And they're like, oh no, it's for like a 2-3 year old, but it was like kind of cool that people are dabbling into that too, because I guess as a parent, like if you're a horror lover and you want to get them started
Mhm.
before they have to wait for the.
Put them in their little Jason onesie and read them.
I mean, you would have done that if
I
you
would
could
have, yeah,
have.
most likely.
If you could have.
Yeah.
So now, since you guys have talked about such creepy movies and it's the beginning of September, we were invited to a Halloween costume party. Like this, my friend Alex goes really hard. Like she cut and edited this like whole trailer with like the party invitation and it had like every amazing, like, yeah. And I hope to show like footage and stuff from her party just because like she goes so hard, but like I feel like there's a lot of pressure right now for me to like show up with this like amazing Halloween costume from like, a scary movie or scary book. And I was just like gonna throw it out to you to think if there's one that comes to your mind that is good for a party.
Like a favorite costume that
Or just like a horror villain that you're just like, ugh.
doesn't get shown much and maybe
Yeah,
would make a
yeah,
good
like
costume.
but still recognizable. Not a Freddy or a Jason, because I'm too scared of them to do that.
I think the ones that I remember the most are the ones that are a little, I don't want to say cheap, but like are a bit underground. You know, the first one that came to mind is I worked with someone who went to a Halloween a Halloween party as Laura Palmer, but the dead Laura Palmer.
Yes.
Wait,
So
who is this?
Twin Peaks. Yeah.
yeah, so she wore a like onesie that matched her skin tone, and she
Mhm.
wrapped herself in plastic and would
That's
just
amazing.
lay in various areas of the party.
I
Committed to the part.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's going here. Like TT is like, I really want to commit to the part.
That's amazing.
Whatever I'm doing here.
My
Yeah,
mind went to Helen at the end of Candyman. Would be a really good
yeah.
with the burn cap, with the hair and then holding the hook.
What about that
Would be really
new?
cool.
That new. I didn't even see the movie. I just saw the picture of that woman in.
Aunt Gladys with
Yeah,
weapons.
yeah.
I have a
That would
feeling
be a
there's going to be a
really
lot
good
of Aunt
one.
Gladys.
Yeah.
Aunt Glad I. Well, considering I haven't seen it, but I was like, she looks pretty.
Whatever you think is going on with her, you're probably right when you see her. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
What about like? Could I be like Dolores Umbridge since she's pure evil?
We don't do Harry Potter.
Okay, but I'm thinking of someone like that that's like
Maybe Annie Bates from Misery. That's you just get a
I
sledgehammer.
do love
Yeah.
yes.
Have you seen *Malignant*?
Yes. How would you do that?
So yeah, so I'm thinking for something like that, you could just do like an all black outfit and a
Huh?
black wig and just walk backwards all night.
That would be
I'm
awesome.
available.
Yes.
My first thing that I thought of
And
was like,
jittery motions.
yeah, I was thinking like the sandworms from like Tremors and like creating like a whole,
That would
like
be
a whole,
really good.
like a either paper mache or like cardboard,
Yeah.
constructing something and making it like
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah, I don't
And then
know.
have people like pole vault from couch to chair to get away from you.
Or the one that scared, like the scariest movie for me as a kid was, do you remember?
Beetlejuice? No,
No,
the sandworms.
Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, you could just be the Green Goblin truck.
I think that would be really cool to paint that and like wear it on the body,
Yes.
like cardboard or something.
I love Maximum Overdrive. It's so bonkers.
I don't know
the-
why it still gives me this. I'm still scared of it.
The trailer to that movie is still the greatest trailer. Stephen King just coked out, yelling at you that he's going to scare you. Like, those were the days.
But you know what? I think that's why, speaking of the Totally Freaked series, like with Chloe's book.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like, I think that's why it bothered me so much. Like, it scared me so much, that book, because she's got that scene with the giant refrigerator in it. And it reminded me of the Maximum Overdrive, where it's like these inanimate things just start going, hey, and yeah.
Well, this brings up a really good point, I think, which is how subjective
things that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is it, TT? What is it that scares you? Do you now, as you're writing a horror book, do you want to put things in that scare you? Or are you like, I'm going to put things in that scare other people because I don't want to live in that world?
I think for me, it's all about the specific aims of the story that I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like Gorman's House, for example, it's all the scares were about what's going to be like the big fears for these characters.
Yeah.
And like doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
For something that is have you read Student Bodies?
No, I really want to. But no,
I won't spoil a ton about that, but for this, what's scary in Student Bodies was more generalized to like be transgressive and like sacrilegious.
Mm-hmm.
So aiming the scares to fit the specific aims of the story, I think, is something that changes a lot. The story that I'm working on now, that's the spiritual successor to Gorman's House.
Mm-hmm.
The scare in that is really about for the main characters, the fear is the nuclear family. And for other characters, the fear is the idea of the nuclear family being destroyed.
Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating.
By like, quote, deviancy, like queerness and conformity. But the things that specifically scare me is I have a theory that everybody has a horror sense that they don't like. For most people, it's gore. People really don't like to see something that looks gross. But I can watch like the most gnarliest stuff and be totally fine. But what really gets to me is sound.
Oh.
So the two things that are really, every time I hear them, I'm just like, ugh, are the clickers in The Last of Us. And number one is that, can I swear?
Of course.
Number one is that motherfucking bear in Annihilation.
God, yes.
That is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Oh, God.
I was like, it's going to be one of three things, and that bear was one that I was thinking it might be. So I was thinking...
Jeez, like it bothered you too?
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
It's so...
Okay, well, for those of us who haven't seen it, what makes it so horrible?
So Annihilation, to spoil the middle of Annihilation,
Yes.
there is this supernatural force that is like fusing a lot of different living things. You know, like there's a deer with flowers coming out of its antlers, or a bush that is growing into the shape of a human, and the bear is fused with one of the people from the expedition that they go out to like figure out what's happening. And not only is it a bear with a like skeletal face and also a human face, but yeah, but whenever it makes a noise, it makes a traditional bear noise that is like intermingled with the sounds of a human, and it's usually saying stuff like please or help me, and I
Yeah.
every single time I
Ugh.
watch and I
No.
like have to emotionally prepare myself for that scene.
No.
It's like all I can think about when I see that is, like when they talk about hyenas mimicking, humans, and I'm
Coyotes
like,
sounding
this is like
like
that turned into so much worse.
God. Well, I know we've talked about this before, like as like we used it to scare our kids, but
Mhm.
the tripod sound from War of the World,
Yeah,
and it's just like
Yeah.
blaring.
that's
That's
a
so
horrible sound.
scary.
I was thinking,
Well, I was thinking the first time we ever saw The Dark Knight.
that's what I was gonna say.
I,
It's like the score of The Dark Knight. Whenever the Joker is telling one of his fake stories of how he got his smile, there's this dissonant sound that slowly gets louder
you have to like listen
as
for
he's
it because,
talking, and it just sets your teeth on edge.
well, I think like for me, I didn't hear it, and you were like, I remember walking out of the theater with
Mhm.
you, and you were like, my God, that sound, it was horrible. And
It's like whatever the opposite of a healing frequency is.
yeah, you
That
hated it.
sound
And
hits.
then once we bought it and I started listening, I'm like, oh, but it's like this almost like a stringed instrument just like
Mhm.
vibrating at a certain, I don't know how,
Yeah.
but it adds the tension for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah. The
So
last sound that I would say is the croaking from The Grudge.
Yeah.
What's her name? Yoko makes going down. Like that's the other one. A second I hear that, I'm like, I'm gonna go now. Thanks.
If you were listening to this episode, that was for you. Literally just last week, my buddy Will did a podcast episode with his sister where they talked about scary noises, and he was like, "Number one is Kayako."
Yeah, and it's
well,
like
now
it's
I'm
funny
piqued. I
because
gotta listen to this.
oh man, it's
No, I
so
mean
yeah,
like to
the
the
bear and the
podcast.
yeah, that
I want
sounds.
to hear about it.
What is the name of that
No,
podcast?
it's called The Guide to the Unknown.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, that sound just every time. And it's funny because, one thing that was good, I was able to get, the Japanese Ju-on before the remake came out and actually see it in theaters, and it just like that movie. A lot of movies have done similar things, but the non-linear, just sort of nightmarish logic of that movie, I don't know if anything will ever recreate how much that bothered me the first time I saw it.
Well, I had something that I wanted to share, and then it immediately went out of my head. Wait,
Well,
no, I remember.
okay.
I remember. So speaking of another podcast, I always end up at some point saying that I like to listen to Ologies, which is a science podcast, but she had someone on that specializes in scent and people that write about scent. Like that's the whole, and how many books and how many things and how many ways like it's written about and described with scent. It's just interesting of like, I would have never thought that that was like a topic that would be important. But you think about when we're writing, like, and immediately think about V.S. Lawrence's new book, The Chalupa Copper Y2K, and the way she's like describing the scent of like the foods and like the things that are happening. Part of me was disgusted. The other part of me was like, I gotta go to Taco Bell right now. It was like a shameful moment for me, but I was still like, God, I'm hungry.
It is funny,
But
yeah.
it's how you write that, and even
Right.
just the sound through a book of, you always say that one line, the unmistakable squelching sound. You're just like, you can immediately like
Yeah.
the words. So like, is there any words that you feel like immediately you're drawn to when you're trying, like if you're trying to create sound in your book? Like, through words.
Ooh, words that I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
I feel like thunder could be like something that could be just like underscoring or like shaping the like.
You're freaked out by such loud like
I am.
things.
I hate if I hear the trash truck coming down the road, you will see me, my ass will be running up the hill. I can't get in fast enough.
Yeah.
It's not only how large it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it is the loud sound. I don't
Yeah.
like fire trucks either.
Well, okay.
Look, these are scary. Like, back to Max. Like we're seeing a theme.
So this isn't a sound, but in Gorman's house, I'm just gonna say the swimming pool scene. That's like, it's so surreal. It's so strange and wrong. Like what is coming after him? I think it's that similar thing where it's like, and the fact that it just like seems to get bigger and bigger, and like I think that kind of like fits that sort of thing of like, this is not supposed to exist. And it even ties back into me the J horror where it's like, I don't even actually know what's going to happen if it gets me. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what like really freaked me out about that scene of, it's like, and like kind of almost overall, you get the idea that there is a, life or death threat here, but how you're going to die is very like, I'm not exactly sure. And that scares me even more of like, these things are coming after you, but like,
because you're playing these mental videos
yeah,
of what
it's
it could
like,
be.
what is going to happen if this gets him? You know what I mean? And I love that.
And that makes you just like, you read this book, like TT. I always
Like
try
an
to
hour.
always try to read everybody before it come on, and the way it was stacked right now, I do promise you I will have it read in the month of September. And then I will also post a review because I'm positive I'm gonna love
You're
it.
going to, yeah.
I know it. Like, there's nothing, when you love a book this
Mhm.
much, it's very strange for me to not love it
Yeah.
as much. And you were like, you ran through this so fast.
And I loved both of the other books in the series. Like Code Skull is like one of my favorite books of the year, and I'm reading this and I'm like, shit, this one might be better. At least it's good. Like I love, like we love Chloe.
Yeah, but
and
that's a
she's great.
compliment because
But, like, yeah.
I loved Code Skull and I
Mhm.
read that in like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Like I was like,
and this is definitely.
so I'm really looking forward to reading it. And I mean, just the whole premise of everything, like having this policy for myself makes me feel like nobody gave me this policy. I just decided it for myself. But
Mhm.
sometimes it's just like,
You also should read it. So no, I'm kidding.
no, I'm saying it's like 5 or 6 books going at a time that I'm
Yeah.
trying to. So, but I feel like I absolutely will, because it looks and feels like everything that I want out of one night. And I don't like, not to be whatever, but like, I'm tired of reading about Hocus Pocus or seeing the movie. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, and some of these things that are like, I want to do, this sounds awesome. Like, what is happening did you even like tee up the book?
Mhm.
You did?
Sure.
No, say it again. You tee it up. So why should someone read this if they're not? Because it's basically, it's Halloween night. It is the night of, which I feel like in general, it just feels atmospheric when all these kids are, it's Halloween night. Like anything and everything can happen.
I
And
do
it
love.
just has a feel to it.
I love a locked room, essentially locked house or whatever you want to say. The majority of the book takes place in one setting and over one night, and like those stakes, I love that. Like those always draw me in, and it's based on the urban legend of a moving haunted attraction that's so scary that if you get to the end of it, you get a bunch of money, and they find it, and it goes really, really, really bad once they get inside.
Wonderful.
So
I love it because we're right. Like, I think the other thing too is like, there's a lot of, I think the one time we did a flat lay with how many different things were like house.
Yeah, that have the word house in the title.
That are horror related.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it sounds like you did a really unique take on this compared to other people of just like, not saying that those other people that wrote about that aren't good, but this sounds really unique.
Yeah, thank you. There was a lot of, I obviously looked at a lot of like haunted house stuff while writing it, but another really big thing was the back rooms and the idea of having this weird like liminal space inside a haunted house and doing something a little bit different with like the architecture and not just, creepy old gothic place.
Yeah.
But also having kids and characters who were familiar with the tropes.
Mm,
So I kind of imagined them all as like the kids from Scream,
yeah.
where it was like, oh, they have seen all these horror movies, they reference all of the horror movies, they sort of know like what's going on, and then to hit them with something that is very un-90s and
Mm,
sort of make it so that they're not like invincible because they know all the tropes,
right.
to keep it like really surreal and have
Yeah.
them guessing like there's no way that Danny could have ever predicted what showed up in the swimming pool.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And this is a really obscure, probably direct-to-video movie that I saw sometime in the 90s. That's called Demon Wind. And there's a moment, and so basically it's like all these characters trapped in a house, and this like fog rolls through, and there's demons in it and attack them. That's like the whole movie is the premise. And at one point these two characters are like protecting the house, and this woman shows up and she's like, "I need help. Oh, please help me." And they look at each other and they're like, "It's a demon." And I feel like that moment with Jason in the hallway, like Danny and Kennedy are like, it's evil. Like, what are you doing? Going over like, and he's like, "Oh, let me go help her." You know what I mean? And so it is very much that thing of like, they know like this is bad news. For a long time, they're still wondering whether or not this is just a haunted attraction, which leads to some cool moments too. But it's like, they're like, "Dude, like, what are you doing?" And then they still end up in as much danger as he did. So I love that. I think, like, comes out September 9th. I think it should be added to anybody's spooky season or just in general horror reading. I absolutely love it and recommend it wholeheartedly. Student Bodies also just came out.
Yeah, Student Bodies came out last month. That is about a group of college kids on a campus, a largely abandoned campus over winter break, who play a body swapping game with a haunted skull.
Nice.
Mm.
So I pitched it as kind of like a queer version of It's What's Inside.
Nice. And is that available like every?
Yeah, that is published by Little Ghost Books, the horror
Okay.
bookstore in
Yeah.
Toronto. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Awesome. You're working on the spiritual successor to Gorman's House, which I'm very excited for. Where can we find you? Are you doing any signings or anything for Gorman's House as it comes out?
When I was at Stoker, I grabbed a art copy of We Are Always Tender with Our Dead and
Yeah.
saw that that was coming out September 9th, and
That too? My God.
I almost emailed Joey and was like, "Do you think that we should move Gorman's House?" And then I saw
Yeah,
so
I see
much
you.
other stuff on September 9th, and I was like, "There's really not a point to that."
Yeah. Clay's short story collection too? I
Yeah,
think that's, man. You know, if anything, that's a really cool thing in history to have something come out on that day. Like, we can
Yeah.
always say we were part of
Celebrate.
that for
yeah.
sure.
I don't know how it happened that
You're
way.
among you're
You know,
among the legends.
everybody's gonna be partying at the same time, and that's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
that's so cool.
I love it. Well, I
But
will I will have it look, it is I will have it read before the 9th so
yes,
that I can
post on the
post
day.
and
Yeah,
support you.
yes.
So
But
thank
you
you.
were saying you were going to be where, when?
I will be at the Baltimore Book Festival on September 13th doing the rewriting history panel.
Oh,
I'll have copies of Cosmic Color, which is my mecha kaiju novella.
what?
Oh
I'll also
man.
have copies of Student Bodies and Gorman's House.
That's awesome. We would have been there because we live less than an hour from Baltimore, but we're going to be up at Spooktastic.
Yeah,
Um,
otherwise we would have come to support
Absolutely.
you.
We'll try to send some people
Yeah,
down for
there's so
sure.
that day too. There's also, if anybody can't make, anyone listening can't make either of those events, there's also a release party for Vampire Hunters, which is a collection by Speculations Publication that I'm also a part of.
Nice.
and I'm having a novella come out with them next year. It's an epistolary short story collection of different instances of vampire hunters all throughout history.
No
So
freaking
there's
way.
one,
Okay, I need this yesterday.
Yeah.
yeah,
What
there's one
did you say
that
there's an
takes
event?
place. Yeah, it's the launch party is going to be at the Vampa Museum in Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I'm
What?
so what day is this?
Is that the 13th too?
Yes,
Of
yeah,
September?
that's why I can't go.
Oh, what the heck?
That's amazing.
Look, my birthday's the 14th of
Yeah,
September, so I'm just like glad to be going and doing something related to, but like now my heart is split across
I know.
3 states.
If you have a, one last second, I would love. What is the rewriting history panel about that you're on? That sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is with me and another confirmed author is Dominic Dickey, and there's a couple more people. I don't know if they've been confirmed yet, so I won't drop names in case they can't show up.
Yeah.
But it's about using different kinds of like speculative fiction to look at a lot of like historical issues that are like in Gorman's house, or looking into the future with books like The Cosmicolor or Dominic's book that you will also be able to get at the event, and just looking at ways that all kinds of speculative fiction can talk about these issues in different ways.
Nice. That sounds fascinating. Absolutely. If you can make one of those events, definitely do so. But 100% pick up Gorman's house student bodies. I will now be getting that Vampire Hunters for
No,
sure.
I'll be getting it.
But that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time tonight. This
Yes.
was awesome.
And I hope we get to run into you. Are you by chance doing like horror reader weekend or anything?
Are
I
planning on Stoker next year.
already have my Stoker tickets for next.
Okay, we'll
So
see
do
you
we.
there.
We
Yep.
will at least see you
We'll
there.
see you in Pittsburgh for sure.
Yeah, so I'll definitely be going to that. I don't know about I'll be doing a on December 6th. I'll be part of Charm City Spec, which is a reading series in Baltimore.
Okay.
Okay, now that
So
one we can make.
so I'll be doing that. I'm not sure what I'll be reading from yet, but I'll be doing something.
All right, December
Sounds
6th.
awesome.
So
Awesome.
we'll do our best to get, that's a short drive for us. So hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great
All right,
rest of your
thank
night.
you.
Thank you. You too.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.